actually a table that deals with this thing. So the cocoa bills, okay, so it was actually February this year, not April. Cocoa bills issued in February 2023 at 32.22%. 32.22%.
What?
Yes. Yes. This year, February, 32.22%. Now, unpaid due by the settlement date, so that is added to the principal. So total principal was 7.93 billion cedis. That's $699 million. And for the 2024 maturity date, the new bill ratio is that you'll be giving 5% in 2024, 25% in 20% in 2025, 25% in 2026, 25% in 2027, and 25% in 2028. That is what is due you by August. So it's basically a 6-month thing. So people bought in February at 32.22%. But now they will be unable to pay this 7.93 billion. So what they're doing is that this year they'll give you 5% of your
32%.
Yes. No, 5%
of your
of your total.
Yes, of your total.
So
okay.
And then next year they give you 20%, 2025.
Okay.
Then 2026 another 25%. 2027 25%. 2028 25%. And then for the new coupon rate 13% in 2024. So if you add the coupon rate to the interest, then you are looking at some 18%. And then they give you 13% for 2025, 13% 2026, 13% 2027, 13% in 2028.
So it's a haircut.
So, completely. So for those who bought this February, expecting their
30%.
In August, this is the new structure. So instead of getting your money in August, it's being spread over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years because we are completely broke. Eric.
Well, Randy, I think that this conversation around the debt.
And let me just add this. It looks like even after this DDEP, a lot of our debts keep coming up. And it appears that in almost every sector, we have been living on credit. I mean, just 2 days ago, it was now those who sew uniforms. And this thing for schools, apart from those who supply food. So it looks like in every single sector, we have just been living on credit. We just owe. Everybody, we just owe. We keep spending, we keep overspending, we keep living beyond our means, up to a point where now the debt has completely engulfed us. We've gone for a DDEP and we still have all these issues. So from pensioners to, cleaners, everybody's owed.
Well, I mean, the issues around the debt restructuring, I think this is not the first time we've had this conversation. And the reasons why government had to essentially go into that kind of arrangement. It's unfortunate that, we would find ourselves in a situation like that. But in the absence of taking these bold initiatives and finding solutions, long-lasting solutions to the challenges that we are facing now, we would have been even in a far, more difficult place. And so, if people have put their money and bought bonds and, invested in instruments that hitherto was very secure, they would definitely be bothered by it. But I feel that we had to make these decisions. These are very tough decisions that had to be taken to deal with challenges that the economy was facing and grappling with. As to the conversation around other persons or entities being owed, there's an earlier question that you asked. And for me, when I get these opportunities, I sometimes move away from the pure politicking to a certain objective analysis of the issues. Have you ever had an opportunity to sit I'm sure the minister has, in a budget cycle before? And sometimes the truth of the matter is that, we would blame...
You mean public sector?
Public sector, right. We will blame... The politician is an easy target. But if you take, let's say, the budget of, let's say, 1996, and then you compare to 2020, and you look at the line items and things that are being put in there, it's almost as if it's like a copy and pasting, right? And sometimes I've asked the question, even over the time, that how is it that we're able to put all of these things on paper, go to Parliament, seek approval, and then you still end up running a deficit, and yet those items that are supposed to even be identified are even not paid for. You understand what I'm saying? Now, what it requires is a total overhaul of even your budgeting cycle in terms of who makes those decisions, the kind of persons that are given the opportunity to make decisions for, like even like a school uniform, right? At the point that you're making that decision to purchase a school uniform, what sort of information is available to you? Is there a certain dashboard that suggests that you can order 300 instead of, let's say, 150 and all that? You know, and I mean, governments around the world, in terms of, I mean, some of these conversations, have become a lot more agile, where each organization or entity speaks to itself. Right, and so we have major, if you like, administrative challenges when it comes to some of these things. Where the reason why we even went ahead to do the Public Financial Management Act, you understand, was to, I mean, ring-fence some of these challenges, and then you have a gift-based system that some decide that they want to use, others don't want to use, and challenges with different systems and software at various public sector entities and all that. So it requires, for me, a lot more work. I mean, you can, once we have these pronouncements and we are discussing it, the politics is nice. It's like what people like. But if you're doing a proper introspection,
I hear you.
Yeah, if you're doing a proper introspection, and the persons within the public service itself would be candid with themselves. Even this whole concept of change management, where you put an IT system in place, the persons will refuse to use it. You understand? So it's a very broad, not to bore the viewers.
I hear you.
It's one of those things that, for me, I think that there has to be a certain collective mindset to be able to deal.
I hear you.
Yeah. Because I've seen budgets, right? And you know that this thing will never happen. I mean, at the end of the day, all government, what will happen is that they will be able to meet just the salary and the emolument aspect of it. Yet, every year the cycle is the same.
You know, I hear you.
Right.
I follow our debt situation. And the more information is made available, the more I realize that although the public service and public servants have roles to play and cannot be exonerated from some things that do happen. Our problem really is the political class, and I explain to you.
Okay, sure.
For example, at the Ministry of Finance, the minister and his high-level team, they have a dashboard of our debt. So at every hour or minute or second, issues of our debt to GDP, debt sustainability and others, it's like a dashboard in front of them. So at every point in time, when they are going to borrow, they know the implications of this borrowing. They know the implications on one, debt servicing. They know the implications on debt to GDP. They know how that is going to affect government spend on goods and services, on capex and all that. So it's like a dashboard. It's in front of them. And it's something that they know. So for every single decision that is taken, the implications, it's like just plug in. You will see the implication. Now, the other thing that I also realize is that with this thing of public sector companies that will be able to borrow on their own balance sheet. And therefore, their books and their balances not being added to the state one. The political class has taken advantage of that. And they do a lot of things in that space. And that does not reflect in their books. So until you have a situation where you now are forced to go into an IMF program. And the IMF says that COCOBOD is 100% owned by government.
The state, yeah.
ECG is 100% owned by government. GMPC is 100% owned by government. You cannot pretend
The debt is not yours.
that the debt is not yours. You can't pretend. And we know how government itself has been using some of these agencies. I mean, recently, GMPC, this issue of creating what they call an SPV, registered somewhere, that they've made, they're giving assurances to Parliament that it was just an SPV. We will change it. It's supposed to be part of SPLOCO. It's being used for all manner of things. If you look at COCOBOD, what's happening today? This COCOBOD thing. It's the same issue. If you look at ECG, it's the same issue. So yes, I agree that the public servants and the public service, they are inefficiencies, they have issues and all that. But the more we see the facts, the more we see what is happening, you can't help but come to the conclusion that it is just an entire deceitful exercise. Because you see, if I own 20 companies, even if I'm the beneficial owner, and my name is even not on the shareholding as a director or shareholder, but I'm a beneficial owner in the books, I know that any profit or loss in that company affects me. The impact is on me. So why will I pretend that I have a sound economy? Why will I pretend that my debt situation is okay? Why will I pretend that my economy is sound? When I know very well that all these entities that I own, whose assets and liabilities are on me, are being run aground. What kind of deception is that? And then it is only when we have a situation like this and you now have no choice but to go to the IMF, then now the reality hits everybody and we begin to say it. And then you have statements like, where we are, if we don't do this, we'll do. Because if we had accepted this reality many years ago, we would have known that at the time that we were saying that our debt to GDP was 60%, it was indeed 100%. But we were living that lie. We were being very deceptive. We were living a pretense, only for it to catch up with us. And now who's suffering?
Randy, just a quick one before Honorable comes in. No, you know, so it's a very complicated conversation, but you know this issue about government entities owing other government entities.
Yes.
Right? You see, so there's best practices. You know, so you mentioned the private sector, right? So even you have an entity, and what they create is called a SBU, Strategic Business Units, right? And if let's say marketing provides a service for procurement or whatever, there's a certain cost element that is attached to it, and then at the end of the quarter, the financials are done, and then the ones that are, supposed to be written off is written off. So you don't necessarily have expectations of money changing hands. You understand what I'm saying? So I've always maintained that you can have what we call the optimum efficiency level. For example, there's no real sense in, let's say, Ghana Gas, for example, saying that it's owned by the state, by another state entity. You understand? When in reality, all of these entities that we are talking about are 100% owned by the state. So it goes into, the idea is that it should go into one consolidated account, if you like. And so I think that we can also get into the habit of sometimes being a bit more innovative with our accounting and how we do this thing, so that it doesn't necessarily come across as debt that is supposed to. So for example, if you pay money to ECG and ECG has for one reason or another excess, it still goes to the state. There has to be an idea, a certain analysis to know that at every point in time, ECG needs X amount to operate at an optimum efficiency level by collecting its revenues, by making sure there's efficiency, and all of that are there for everybody to see. Ghana Cars, the same, VRA, and all of those things. Because you see, sometimes some of these huge monies that are being bandied around are also actually mere paper debt, right? Because if I own, like you're saying, you had 20 companies, right? And you are essentially overall owner of all these entities. It's all coming to you. But you can create a system where all these entities will be able to function at an efficiency level that would be of benefit to the state. So if you go and cut the, if you like, power to COCOBOD, for example, really, in reality, you haven't done anything, right? So we need to be able to, again, like I'm saying, there are best practices in other parts where we can be able to take some of these examples from. I used to work for a company that used to say, you have to copy with pride, so that we are not always saddled with some of these commentary. Then when it comes to our engagement with either outside entities or the private sector and all of those things, so you have different financial arrangements to be able to deal with that. Then we'll be a bit more efficient as a government.
About 3 weeks ago, I was speaking with Ben Wachi of ASEP, and with the ECG problems, under the auspices of the Vice President, they created this cash waterfall mechanism. In coming up with their latest report, they found out that in the month of, I think, May or April, what ECG actually paid the revenue into the cash waterfall was less than 20%. Less than 20%. And the reason is that they're supposed to have spent the money on other things like crude, purchases for light crude because there was no gas or something coming up. And obviously, these are directives from higher up to the ECG board. But I'm saying that this was a cash waterfall mechanism under the auspices of a vice president, and it was supposed to deal with the issues of those who supply to ECG. When ECG sells, where does the money go? So at least there's some guarantee that they can try and over time clean the books and all that. But this, in terms of the implementation, at least this is the latest recovery.
Randy.
There's so much wrong with the system, and the government's rhetoric is not helping, because there comes a time when you must get truthful with us. So, we are in a very bad place. We are still doing politics with issues that are clear for people to begin to see. After the haircuts, we should just have come clean where we are. Because every day something is unearthed. And so, okay, fuel prices have gone up a little bit. So we asked the question, what happened to gold for oil? What was it meant to achieve? Because you are still going to use money to buy the gold. No matter how you do the figures on paper or whatever, money is used to buy the gold. If you are not going to use it for oil. So, do you have if you take it from your reserves and your reserves drops, it brings another problem in itself. That's why even the first bailout, a section of it had to go into the reserves to make sure that it is shored up. So, many people have lost confidence with the economic management team. Many. We don't know whether we are going, coming, standing still, in the air. We are hanging. Nobody has any confidence. COCOBOD. We are prosecuting people for COCOBOD. When COCOBOD there is no moral. Let me put it there, I'm not saying legal. There is no moral basis for this government prosecuting anybody on corruption or things that didn't work with this kind of record. Because why? The institution should be investigating things now. What is happening now? How can COCOBOD collapse? I mean, it's our flagship. Even people were able to take money and do roads, which you stopped. We were not in this situation. So what has happened to the money? What has happened to that? What we used to borrow? Have you seen?
It's pretty obvious that the expenditure.
It's just out of. Yeah. I mean, the expenditure is just. I mean, how many extra workers have you put in? I think over 2,000. And I'm being generous. And all these people are being paid. And all these issues are happening. And nobody, they're complete indiscipline, complete lack of following process, and nobody's answering. And we have institutions that are meant to investigate. And do we investigate anything that is happening now? You are looking at the past, when things, this government has been in position, this is the 7th year. 7 years, we are coming to the end. 6.5 if you want to be precise. So you ask yourself, what has happened?
But it doesn't mean that people should not be held accountable for what they did in the past.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't. But don't take your eye off also what is happening now. Why? I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I said moral right. I didn't say legal. If people have done wrong things, they can be prosecuted. I don't have a problem. But why? Aren't we seeing things going on wrong now? Why is nobody, every single area we owe. Every single area. And what has happened to the money?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. We are dead broke. And the same people are being left to run the issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it.
You appoint boards and management.
Yes.
They do not turn around the thing. They do not show anything. You continue keeping them there, or you reappoint them.
What is going on?
So what were you looking for in the first place?
Why?
Unless you are a beneficiary of their
largesse,
their incompetence, or I don't know.
And we are watching ourselves sink. We are watching it. Day in, day out, we are sinking. Why? Inflation, which you would have thought would have come. We are still. It peaked. It rose a little.
Yeah.
It didn't go down.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, we are taxing our companies into oblivion.
You see, and people.
Somebody came to us and said, oh, can you contact people in Nigeria, a foreign company, to see whether they are interested in buying a business in Ghana? So we made some contacts that people, and the answer was, but our own people are leaving. They are selling their businesses because Ghana is not a place you can do business anymore. I was stunned.
And you see, one of the things that
I was like,
one of the things that we are not even paying attention to is, in all of this, what's going to happen to our financial space? Look, as we speak today, if we are candid to ourselves,
yes,
if you are a Ghanaian, where will the confidence to invest in any bond or bill come from in the future? I mean, just everybody.
Unless you don't have alternative.
Yes.
But if somebody has an alternative, he's taking
because
the
the only reason why treasury bills are still operating is because government borrows every week from there.
Yes.
So immediately you go for treasury bills, it means that government itself cannot go and borrow. But that is what government borrows from every week to refinance, borrowing to refinance. So that is how come treasury bills have been left. But apart from treasury bills, almost everything.
Look, we don't even take into account the human brain drain that is taking place as a result of the economy of Ghana. In the health sector, they should do a proper survey and find out what is happening. We are losing from nurses to doctors. We are losing the best possible staff. We are losing.
But that won't be new. Brain drain won't be new. I've been discussing brain drain for the last. Okay, maybe rates. Yeah, maybe rates. Yeah.
The rate at which it is happening is frightening. Yes, everything happens, but the rate at which it is happening, and nobody is talking. Because it's like if you talk, hey, somebody will come and victimize you or say this. But the people in the hospitals, the people in the institution know what is happening. We are in a very, very bad place. And what makes it nauseating is so if you and no attack on him, but if you have social media awash with people who are saying they are going to campaign with their vehicles branded, booklets where they seem to have a certain level of money, how do you think that people are going to feel? Yes, it's good for us in terms of our politicking. Yes. But it doesn't still stop the fundamental problem that Ghana is in a bad place. And this thing should stop. We should have a conscience. We don't appear to have a conscience under the leadership of President Nana. We've lost our conscience. And it is becoming, we can talk till the cows come home. But COCOBOD, our flagship, we haven't even come to the issue that because of Galamsey, if we are not careful, we will now have to start differentiation which cocoa seeds we are taking for export. Because if they start testing these cocoa seeds and they have got levels of minerals in them which have passed the acceptable rate, the buyers will not take the cocoa, what's it called, seeds anymore. So they have to know where your cocoa seed is coming from, as opposed to, because the effects of Galamsey are beginning to take their pinch. And I'm not saying that Galamsey started in your time or it wasn't. I'm saying that it has gotten worse.
I'm sure you've seen the Volta now, the black Volta.
Well, it should be called the brown Volta.
The last lake standing is now under siege.
Yes.
Anyway,